All right, we're live on Facebook. We'll be back with David. All right, welcome everybody. We got 21 people in the house on Facebook. These shows resonate with you, please share. We got a really cool dude on today, David Manning. So let me get him up here.
Oh, can you hear me?
What's happening, brother?
Hey, nice to see you, Todd.
Nice
How's
to
it
see you,
going?
man. I always dig talking to you because you're down to earth and real about it, and you're also very connected. But what the hell's going on in the front line of the apocalypse?
It's wow, it's these are amazing times, aren't they? I mean, it's this year has been extraordinary, really, and I haven't done much in terms of work back in January, which seems like 17 lifetimes ago. We had that January the 12th. Was it January the 12th? I can't even remember. January the 12th, January the 11th. Some huge life changing event then. And then I did a couple of teleconferences back in January. And I thought, okay, I need to take a break. It had been a really intense period. And I haven't got back into my work saddle yet. I've seen people one to one, and I've been certainly riding the energies and feeding them, but we have been taken so deep from my perspective. I mean, everything. This clearing process has gone on for years and years and years now, but it just keeps penetrating deeper and deeper and deeper. So I'm constantly amazed at what comes up in my own field and my own body, but also when I'm working one to one with clients, what they are coming out with and what is happening for them. So it is extraordinary. And now we've got this little cherry on the cake with this interesting virus that's
Mm-hmm.
hitting the world, and that's an interesting one. It really is. I mean, I think I felt that there was certainly some interference going on, that it's not entirely a natural thing at all. But as with all of these things, it's a huge opportunity to see where you're at with your centeredness, with your alignment, because from my understanding, and I've been through a lot of things that traditionally, we're meant to avoid. So I've had, a couple of different things of cancer, a couple of different experiences, heavy duty chemotherapy, heavy duty radiotherapy last year. And all the time that I've had those, there has been the most amazing guidance for me on how to allow my body and my energy field to integrate and work with those, so
Mm-hmm.
that I have come out of those experiences feeling stronger and in a sense, wiser because of the experience rather than depleted. And I think this is the same sort of thing. There is nothing now because we are coming into really extraordinary levels of our multidimensionality. And there is nothing in the third and fourth dimension that can wreck us unless we are doing the wrecking for ourselves, you know? And this is just a huge opportunity to demonstrate that. I think it doesn't, maybe a lot of us do get this virus, but it doesn't have to be a huge impact, I think, it's, but I certainly think it's an interesting one. I was having a radioactive scan a few weeks ago to see whether I was all clear of cancer. I'd been told very clearly that I was by guidance, but I went along for this scan and I was told after the scan you're radioactive for 24 hours. So you can't stand next to a pregnant woman or young children. So it's like, okay. So I was sitting there waiting for the scan and I asked, what do we best do to work with the energies of this radioactivity? And I was just told, download the energies of the 10th dimension and flood yourself and your field with that. So I did that in the waiting room. And by the time I walked in for the scan, I didn't care what was happening because I was in such a lovely state. I really didn't mind. And I think it's the same sort of thing here. If we really work to keep our vibration high, and don't get sucked into the fear-mongering that is vast on the planet at the moment, then we can create new opportunities for ourselves and demonstrate to ourselves, because often this is what it's about. It's about demonstrating our potential to ourselves, because we are all, each of us, uncovering what we are capable of. It's like a new learning for all of us every step of the way. So I think it's a really interesting time and
that was a great intro. We can end the show right now. Everything happens in I love it. I love it. I tried to connect with you before the show started, so I was running a little late. That's what I was doing. I try to do that before every show, but then I wrote a little thing and I had to post it too, and I don't know what it means to anyone else, but I know what it means to me. And it's the same frequency, what you just talked about. So there's a couple of things you bring up. One is, I didn't know that you'd had these issues, with cancer and the treatment until right now. And I think about April Fontana. She's an incredible healer, and she's got my attention. And she was on the show the other night, and she was talking about how people think that when she does work on their bodies, distant, that she gets a picture of their body, sees all the organs, and gets big signs saying, this is, whatever. She said, no, what I do is, because she works in the sixth dimension, that's where her connection is. And she goes to the sixth dimension and does exactly what you did in the 10th dimension. And she goes in without questions, without anything. She just immerses herself there, and then images will come and tell her, in that openness, what it is. So it's very much the same methodology. I think this is part of what I just wrote a small post, but what I was alluding to in the post is maybe there's not a mission. Maybe the mission is just the narrative that involves our higher dimensions and higher aspects. And maybe it's all meant, if there's any meaning to it, to just come back to that heart, to our heart. And I know that sounds cliche, but I mean the deepest desires and dreams. Like is there something wrong with having a desire? I don't really think that we need to be desensitized to a point of enlightenment. I think the point is, and this coronavirus is a perfect example. We'll talk about that. And some people don't want to hear it, but it's an opportunity, like you said. And this is why we're here. We are here for the opportunity to expand on all levels. But getting back to what I was saying is maybe it's to align, obviously to the love that we are, but also to the love that we've created before our eyes, and see it for what it is, and then navigate your higher reality, your dreams and desires, through being present in the moment and appreciating and loving everything in front of you because you created it. So, let's move on to what you said about, and thank you for the connection. Coronavirus. This post started out last night. It said, I'm sick and tired of hearing about the goddamn coronavirus. Excuse my French, everybody. I'm trying to behave. I'm tired of hearing about 5G, MK Ultra. Now, look, I know people have been through this stuff. I've seen people that have testified, whistleblowers, whatever you want to call them. It's real. Montauk, it's real. All that stuff is real. But everybody's pain is the same, proportionate to their life experience. This is all a big play. And to me, the coronavirus, whether it's AI or whatever it is, there is a consciousness of it. And if we respond in fear and let's get 2 weeks full of, water and food and, blah, 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 and all that stuff, and it's related to 5G and someone's out to get us, that consciousness will grow.
Mm.
But to your point, it's an opportunity, just like you've had an opportunity through what you just described, and you made a choice. And that choice was to go what you know up here, where your imagination has roamed and where it has found other realities, other aspects, higher revelations and epiphanies. So I'm with you. I'll say, bring it on. There is no death. So what the hell do we have to lose? It's not so much what do we have to lose, but what do we have to gain?
That's it. That's it. We gain more of ourselves in the exploration. And that's another big thing that's been up over the past couple of months, I think, is the deep-seated fear of death that we have been trained into on this planet. And it's time to really shred that one, to recognize, as you say, there is no death. Something else that goes along with that is this thing of ownership of the body, ownership of anything. The body is on loan to us, and we fit into it like a suit, but we are bigger than the body. The body is in us, in effect. But we are in the process, I think, of developing a very, very different relationship with the body. And an important part of that is that we're not clinging to the body as if it is our savior, as if it is where our life comes from. It isn't. We animate the body. It doesn't animate us. So it's important, and I've had to deal with this over and over and over again in my lifetime, that we confront our fear of death and deal with that, move through that to recognize actually there is no such thing. There truly is no such thing as death. That's an important part of this expansion into freedom, expansion into these higher dimensions that are really wanting to be present with us and in us and as us now. We have to let go of the trained fear of death. And I think from my perspective, my experience, there's a little band of separation between the seventh and eighth dimension that is really this fear of death. So you can integrate 5, 6, 7, and then there's like you hit a bit of a wall. And I think that, historically speaking, has been the point beyond which we would have had to have died in order to access dimensions 8 and 9, if you know what I mean. Now, those dimensions are available to us. We don't have to let go of the body in order to experience those. So they're coming in and they're available. But as you start to move into those dimensions, you're going to hit that wall of, oh fuck, I'm gonna die, and we have to do that over and over again in order to recognize actually it's an illusion. There is no such thing as death.
Vera just put up a quote. She says, yes, Todd, the only mission is to be us, share and oh wait, that wasn't the one, but thank you for that one. She says, we need to go through the fear. The virus is an amazing collective trigger. And that wasn't that one too. Another good one. Here it is. Experience is necessary to transmute and shift. Just talking or thinking does not do anything. So this is, again, part of what, I didn't have enough time or words or whatever, but this is why we're together. So it all comes out together. This is another thing I was trying to allude to in the writing was that, you said that about the body, and that's very profound, but there's something about not aligning with the body. The body is, to me, okay. So say you get up, in the old life, we get up to go to work every day and we get dressed, and say we dress, professionally, with a shirt, tie, maybe whatever, nice dress, whatever, but you have to dress that way every day. We used to have to do that years ago. Is it getting up in the morning and and drudgery and resistance and unhappiness, you know, and putting boredom and putting on your armor, because that's what it is. And to me, the body is like an armor. It's like, am I waking up every day damning this thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
This? I mean, I know I'm not this, but by God, I'm here being this. So, you know, what you said at the top of the show about all the drilling down that we've done, level after level after level after meta level. One of the things that we've been conditioned to do is focus on the possibilities of the negativity or the power of the negativity. We got to remember the yin and yang, and we're now in a position and a state of awareness collectively to be able to utilize the positive impact of the negative path to transformation. And maybe the only way to do it is to actually not know it, to her point, but to actually embody it. And taking examples such as this, and I know of others who have overcome death in the embodiment, overcome illness in the embodiment. And maybe that's what it's going to take for us to believe, you know?
Yeah, and I think there's something, because we are a collective, it's like when enough of us have done something, it becomes widely available. There's that 100th monkey thing. So the bands of separation, if they're dissolved by enough individuals, then the whole collective, it shifts in the whole collective all at once,
Yeah.
And I think that's happening over and over again as we move through layer after layer after layer. Something that I've seen coming up a lot for people as I've been working with them over the past month, I guess. I've touched their energy field, and there's been a lot of guilt and grief coming
Yeah.
to the surface. And as I look into it, I'm thinking, what is this? And time after time after time, it's come up as the guilt at the collapse of Atlantis. Now, I thought we had sort of dealt with that a while ago, but it's back up in the collective field a lot. Now, we're on the verge, I think, of a massive integration of moving through that, the fall, a major fall about 13,000 years ago, and the impact of that in the collective fields into, or widening into these fields of beauty and grace that we lived in deeper in our time in Atlantis. And this is a really scary time in a sense. So there's a lot of resistance pushing back against this because there's just a huge amount coming to the surface. But it's like it's a really delicate, very, very beautiful time. And I've seen this happen in individual fields. As that guilt and fear gets shifted, then it's like doorways open in the field, and there's a huge opening. So all of this energy just starts to come forward, and it almost is as if it clicks back into place, and we remember a much, much bigger version of ourselves that we've been disconnected from. And I think this is about to happen, certainly over the next few months. I think the coming equinox on March the 21st is a big part of this. So I think it's, as scary as it is in the collective field here, there is this amazing potential for growth and expansion now that is
Yeah.
happening at every level.
Absolutely, there is, you know, and it is unknown and it is scary. It's like, you know, you got a bunch of little kids, and there's a big forest, a big dark forest, thick forest in front of them, full of, full of playground stuff, you know, merry-go-round, swing set, but you got to run through the forest. You know what I mean? It's,
And you've got to, worry that there might be a boogeyman there to get you.
well, that's coming from here though.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I mean, it's like, what is it? What is death? What is the perspective on death? It's an all or nothing proposition. And I think people with stories like yours are energetically overcoming it, which includes, living for hundreds and thousands of years in the same vehicle, as we know happens in other parts of the universe,
Yeah.
other parts of our aspects, becoming younger. I mean, we're on the forefront of something far bigger than any of us thought, but it's not the complicated, galactic, angelic, akashic stuff. It's right now.
And it's the most natural
Recognizing,
thing.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's the most natural thing in the world because it unfolds from inside us. It's
Hmm.
what we are. So we're just dropping into what we are
Hmm.
rather than actually creating. It's not like we've got to work
Yeah,
out how to do something. We just remember, and the remembrance unfolds from deep inside us as we release the layer upon layer upon layer of shit that we are encased in, you know?
yeah. Morgan put up a post a couple last night, I think, or the night before. It was a really good post. I can't remember exactly what it said at this moment, but she went and found these pictures, and it was, that back in the old days, if they broke like ceramic, they would put it back together. I think it's an Oriental thing. They put it back together with gold.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
was
know?
talking to somebody because I was an amazing potter here where I live has done that with some beautiful, beautiful
Okay,
pieces of
so
work.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
So there was this egg, and the egg looked as if it had been an egg, a ceramic egg that was put together back together with gold. But then she put up two other pictures of it, and it was the artist making it. So the egg itself was gold, and it was a mosaic on top of the egg. And when I was looking at it, because there's a couple of pictures, so it wasn't fully done, I thought, boy, isn't that appropriate with this post and with what we're talking about? These little chips that we put on top of it, we create it. I'm going to be this. It doesn't matter why. Oh, well, I'm going to do this so I can fit in, or I'm told by society, or I just want. And you have all these chips that have identified us, and like we're pulling them off. And the egg is gold. To your point,
yeah, yeah. We're just coming back into that remembrance of the truth of what we are, you know. And it's I think for many of us, it's true that that thing that Marianne Williamson wrote that went around the world, that we're scared not of our darkness but of our light because we've been
Mm,
so disconnected from it. And we have believed that it belongs out there, but it is within us. And now we've been working through this collective fear for a long time, and we're starting to get used to the idea that maybe, just maybe, this is what we are. You know,
yeah,
yeah. And I
and
think this year then is going to see amazing revelations around that.
yeah, yeah, and I think it looks like these big events, whatever coronavirus, whatever is next. It's like a false flag frequency.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I think slowly but surely the human aspects consciousness is coming into alignment. And I think what's happening is the energy is forcing us all into a corner to keep looking at these things until it gets louder and louder. Because, most of the people that come on the show and they talk about their wake up experience, they get to a point where they just say, okay, you know what? Bring it. What else can happen to me? How bad can it be? Until they're forced to look into their soul.
yeah,
And every time one of us do that, not even considering what happens, what you can do with that connection and power in action, but when any of us do that, when any of us really buy 100% into the pure soul that we are, it lights up the whole grid. And I think a lot of that's happening now, slowly but surely, deliberately, steadily. The collective human consciousness is expanding. You know, we're creating this transformation, and it's exciting.
it is. It is. Just to go back to that death thing, that it happened. My first experience with cancer was 2001, 2002, and that was um, it was a very beautiful experience, really. And I was told, at that point, you're not going to live, you'll die in a couple of months. And it was a real choice point. I had to make a choice to live. And I realized I was more scared of living than I was of dying. This time round, there was just this very, very deep surrender to, well, I don't know, the
Yeah.
possibility either way, but the amazing excitement of, but couldn't it be really exciting to see what lies beyond? And then again,
Mm,
having to make another choice of, so it was really cool for me to recognize actually there wasn't, is the fear of letting go of life and people you love and things that you want to do, but also the excitement of, it's going to be amazing what we move into when we do let go of
mm-hmm.
the body, and that's a really beautiful realization to have made. but that whatever's happening here is equally as exciting.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
so
Why
that's,
would we be conscious here all the time, or at
yeah,
least 16 hours a day?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, why would that be happening? Is it a fishbowl of a realm? Is it an AI construct? It's all, I love what you said about the issue of death, or the cloud of death, aspect of death in our consciousness, but not just here, but in the sixth, and I believe you said the seventh as
I
well.
think it's between the seventh and eighth. That's where I kept
Okay.
bumping
So
into this dimensional divide.
yeah, yeah, I'd like to talk about that. So to me, what I really like about that, it resonates in that we're all talking fifth dimension, fifth dimension, fifth dimension, you know? Maybe it's because the fifth dimension had that record age of Aquarius 50 years ago. I don't know why the fixation on the fifth dimension, but you just talked about your experience where you went into the 10th dimension and marinated in that frequency to go into what you were going into. And I told you about April the other night goes into the sixth dimension. And my point is that it's dimensionless. I mean, they're infinite. It's, that's the point. The door is open, and it's not just open to the fifth dimension. We can tap into anything, any place, anytime, any
Yeah.
information that we want.
Yeah, and I think that, the dimensions from my perspective are bandwidths of energy
Mm,
that require a capacity to hold that bandwidth here, and
yes.
bringing these high frequency energies into a body that hasn't had some developmental process would blow fuses, would not
Hmm.
be useful. So you have to go through a training process, a purification process, if you like, to clear the old shit from the wires, to make sure that those wires in the body, the pathways and meridians, are able to handle the high frequency energy. And so you get trained, and it's not that I go into those dimensions and exist at those levels. I don't.
Hmm.
I'm a very regular human being in a sense,
Hmm.
but I have access to those dimensions. I think we all do. And when I focus my attention, then those dimensions, what is demonstrated to me over and over again, is those dimensions are very ready to be here in us, with us, and as us. And they want us to open to receive those higher frequencies so that they start to really shift the baseline frequency that's on this planet.
Yeah.
But for a large part of the population, they're not even thinking about this stuff, and then we get swamped by huge fear impulses that are generated by media and whatever. And there's a
Yeah.
big one going on now, as we know.
Well, one of the things about the narrative that we know and that we haven't been told that's come out with the internet age, just to say the last 100 years or so, uh, if we look at it, if we look at humanity as a single person, as a single soul, and take somebody from 1929 when the Depression hit, or the World War One or two or whatever, and all the bullshit, you know, and as a one soul consciousness coming into its own, you know, starting to see the truth is stranger than fiction from a human perspective, and that they're more than human, and so on and so on. We've been through a lot. There's nothing that we can do to further embarrass ourselves than we've done in the past.
Yeah,
Nothing we can do to feel more loved from a human perspective, hated, guilty, shamed, whatever. I mean, we've done it all. So I go back to what you said earlier. The opportunity is there. It's available. And no one can do it but yourself. To thine own self be true. And I know this is some simple, old adages, but there's a grain of truth that, I think runs through every philosophy, every religion, you know, the intention of every conversation. And I think we're on it.
yeah. Yeah, and it is very simple now. I think this is something that we're certainly I'm being encouraged to pay attention to, is just to let go of a lot of the bullshit and just pare down your life, in a sense, pare down my life until I'm just dealing with the essentials, so that things are very very simple. And there's a lot more time to give to the energetics of the moment, because these energetics are intense. And every time I close my eyes, it's like, Jesus Christ, that was a life-changing event that happened in a 10-minute meditation. But those life-changing events are happening 4 or 5 times a day. You know, huge releases and shedding, huge integrations and downloads that would have, laid me out for 2 weeks a few years ago, and now just integrating one after the other after the other.
Yeah.
And that takes time and attention and a real willingness to go slowly through the day, in a sense, and give space to that, because that's more important than anything else I can be doing with my time.
Yeah.
I have a human life. I have to make money and pay the bills, the regular sort of shit. But this is what I actually came for.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And so when you, as you have had this, you know, occur with, the cancer, and your mindset, or some of your mindset you shared earlier, um, that's kind of an isolation, right? That's, there's something great about isolation, and we can have isolation in like, to your point, in terms of speed. It can be in 10 minutes. We can get some profound downloads or whatever. But did you find or I guess what I'm saying is, in your isolation, in your one-on-one with the universe, and this what has been put before you, did you find that did you feel that you were doing collective work as well when that was going on, or was it all subjected just to you?
The first time around, it was very much about me. I had been diagnosed HIV positive in 1992, when there was no medication, so it was a death sentence in itself. 10 years later, I had stopped drinking and drugging in the year 2000, and in the year 2001, I started to feel really unwell, and was diagnosed with liver cancer, and it was like, oh fuck. And I was very close to death. I was very ill, and it was made. It was the most amazing experience, because I was warned beforehand by guidance that this was coming. I wasn't told exactly what, but just that there was a storm coming, and that I needed to trust. And I was held and moved through that whole experience in the most beautiful, beautiful way, every step of the way. And there were, again, deep, deep surrenders, huge grief, huge fear, until there came a point the day after the doctors had told me, you've got 2 months to live, where I was handing my life over to the universe, and I was told in no uncertain terms, look, it's your life. Do what you want with it. You make up your mind what you're going to do, because you have lived your life as if you wanted to die, and you're at the point where you're about to get that wish granted. Is it really what you want? So I was given a good kick up the backside and told, pay attention here. You're creating your reality as you go. You've got a chance to change the outcome here. So I said, okay, I'll live. And the cancer was gone, by the next scan, within a couple of weeks. And of course, the doctors didn't understand why, but I knew that if I had chosen to die at that point, I would probably have died within a couple of days, So
Holy
that was a
shit,
really
man.
beautiful, beautiful experience, just a demonstration of what happens when I aligned myself with a will to live rather than a will to die. Because all of my drinking and drugging had been about avoiding life, drinking to
Well,
oblivion.
you found out the HIV positive in '92, and then you took 8 years trying to kill yourself, basically.
Well, I had taken maybe the 20 years before, because
Yeah,
it was
well,
just
that
been a
too.
long,
Yeah,
long,
I know.
long
Yeah,
suicide,
yeah. I haven't been
and
through the degree of that you have. I mean, not in that literal way. No, I mean, I can't even imagine that. It's an incredible story, but yeah, it's like, too, like, you wanted to die. Well,
I
you were
thought I wanted to die. I
cheating
was
death,
pissed
or
off with life.
you were pushing death,
Yeah, and I
provoking
was
death.
pushed. What it was I was really pissed off with life. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
hurt. I'd had a shitty childhood. I was angry. Um, and all of that stuff, liver
Yeah.
is the seat of anger in the body, and I had liver cancer. And but I got this amazing opportunity to see what I was creating and to make another choice. And I did. And very, very quickly, the cancer disappeared. And then I had to deal with the shit that I had been avoiding all of my life. And there were times over the following couple of years that I thought, I really wish I had died, because it was a mess. It was a real mess.
Yeah.
This one, last year's cancer, a bowel cancer, was something. It was an interesting one. I sort of knew again that something was coming, but not clearly. And 4 days before I realized that my bowel was obstructed, I was brushing my teeth. I was in the mirror brushing my teeth, and this voice said, "We are in cancerous territory now." And it was like, so what the fuck does that mean? What
Oh,
this
shit.
bit of guidance is that? What? And then 4 days later, I realized I had a bowel obstruction. I thought, oh, that's what that means.
Mm.
And then I was told, okay, this is just something you've got to go through. Don't worry about it. And it's like, well, yeah, that's easy enough for you to say when you're not dealing with it. But it was, again, an amazing thing of how it was clear guidance of, don't make this the central focus of your life. Carry on working, go through the treatment. The treatment is useful because this, the radiotherapy was a very, very powerful energetic treatment. And it was like opening myself to receive the radiotherapy as focused beams of light from the sun. And every time I would walk into the radiotherapy room, my heart would open quite unconsciously. I wasn't doing that, but I would lie on the table there and for the most part be in bliss receiving that.
Yeah.
That's not to say it didn't burn and it wasn't painful, not at the time, but it burns
Mm.
the skin. But I didn't require anything like the amount of pain medication that I was told I would, and I was able to drive and take care of myself throughout the treatment, which I'd been told wouldn't be possible. And then I was given the very clear guidance of, okay, we've had enough of the radiotherapy now. Tell the doctors you're finishing the treatment because any more is going to be destructive. So I had to turn around to the doctors and say, okay, thanks very much. I'm ending the treatment now. I'm done. And they were like, but you can't, we haven't finished the treatment. You'll have to sign a waiver form to say that you're refusing treatment. And that was scary because it was like, am I going to trust guidance, trust my body, or trust the system, which is saying that you need
Yeah.
to finish the whole treatment? But we went
Wow,
ahead with that, and
that's
then
powerful, man. That's a powerful thing. The even like the same type of energy, I guess, too. Like anything that you ingest, eat, drink, anything that you ingest could also be seen as you meet someone, have an interaction with someone, what thoughts you're carrying with you as you pull in that energy. I mean, it's a powerful testament. Um, what about, I mean, your connection to your higher self speaks. I mean, no pun
that's how
intended.
for the most part, it's usually an auditory or but it changes all the time now because there's so much more of an embodiment of that
Yes.
now for many of us that it
Yeah.
isn't, because even the hearing something involves separation in a sense.
Yes. Yeah.
But
That's
now
what I was getting at.
it's just
That- Yeah, that's what
a
I was getting at.
knowing of something.
So let me ask you. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. We've talked about this. Morgan and I've talked about this a little bit. Um, so it's like there's periods where, or I don't know if it's periods. There's just this like I'm not getting anything, you know. So you have these more extreme moments, and that's when you tend to hear clear. I don't know, clear or it's still and it feels like separation, a voice, an image, something external, something an apparition, whatever the case is. But you're right. There's more and more a feeling of embodying. And it's like that part of it's leaving. It's another death, right? Another release of an identity or identification. And so there is that new feeling. So in your moments, in your daily moments, like you said a while ago, you go to work, you got bills to pay, you have a normal life, whatever. Do you receive the same type of audible or imagery that you do in the more extreme moments? And if not, what's your relationship? How's that connection feel as you become more embodied, just in the normal day to day?
How it is, I mean, what I'm having an interesting experience with it. So at the moment, in terms of if I meditate into it, and it's always been I've always been very blessed by this relationship and a bit confused because I was so resistant to it. And so it's been very, very gentle with me and led me by the hand. And now I'm being shown that there are just these veils. The personality field is here, and there's a bit of a veil behind, backing up the personality field. And then there's the field of vastness that we all are. And the heart is doing the most amazing things at the moment and really dissolving the personality field. So the heart becomes the easiest place to unify the field of vastness with the field of the personality and dissolve the veils of separation that exist between the two, in a sense. And every time I'm paying attention to the heart field, it feels like I'm just gazing at a sun that is constantly turning itself inside out. I mean, it's the most beautiful, beautiful thing. So that I'm being encouraged now more and more just to give up even being in the personality field and just rest in the field of vastness all the time. But of course, I, like most of us, is addicted to the personality field. So I get pulled into that all the time.
Yeah.
And then it's remembering just to ease back and rest in the field of vastness that is always there. It doesn't go anywhere now.
Yeah, that's a great description. You're really good. You need to like do some narratives. So when you're in that space, in that field we're all becoming more and more familiar with, there is a lot of stuff close to the senses that's being released, and there is some emotion with it. You know, it's dying. But when you're in that field, where are the emotions? Because that's something that I've heard some different things on. Like you become less emotional, but you're at a higher state of love and awareness.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I
from
mean?
that place, from that field of vastness, I can direct energy into the field of the personality to help dissolve
Okay.
difficulties or untangle some of the knots in consciousness that I've still got going on. All of that stuff. It becomes very easy um, to maneuver energy from there into the personality structure. And I realize that's always what's happened in when I'm doing energy work with somebody. I sort of
Yeah.
dissolve out of the personality, get absorbed by the field of vastness, and work from that, or that space works through me in
Yeah.
the energy work. It's just taken me years to realize that's what's going on.
How did you first make contact? If this is if this is even a question, how did you first make contact with your higher self?
I came in with it in
Okay.
contact, and there was always just a voice in the center of my head that was just nonstop chatter, 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 chatter. And it kept me company because my early childhood was a mess. And then about the age of 7, I always remember standing in the yard at school, being told by this that it was going to be departing, and I was looking around thinking, but I hate this world. I don't fit into this world. But I knew that this was leaving so that I would fit into this world a bit more, rather than pay attention to my inner world. And that was really difficult. I think I felt abandoned by that. And I was an addict by the age of 7. I was sniffing petrol fumes, so I was already addicted very early on. And I think partly to fill the space of that emptiness, in a sense. Um, and then when I was 27, it came back full force, in a sense. But again, I was rolling a joint in the kitchen after I got home from work, and this voice just started up, "You're a healer. Do you know that you're a healer?" And it was like, and I didn't know but it's just started showing me times in my life when I had worked very consciously with energy without even being aware of it, where I had decided with my group of friends, okay, I'm going to make sure everybody has a good night tonight, so I would raise the frequency. Or if I was in a bad mood, I could do the reverse. And there are times when I had dropped the frequency to make sure everybody was miserable along with me.
When you wanted to be debaucherous.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So much of this stuff, I think we actually were doing a lot of it too. That reminds me, like when I was 15, I got my car, my first few cars. I wrecked them, like 4 of them, like in the first 2 years. But I had a van, I had a Volkswagen bus, and I would have been 16. I was working, I had cash, and we would get in the bus. We'd load it up like with 8 dudes, you know. But I can always remember I had to drive, and I didn't realize it, but I was praying. I prayed, and I thereby was raising the frequency, and I didn't even know it. I was just like, hey, I'm going balls out tonight. I just want to make it home in one piece, whatever. But no, I think, it's, I guess where I'm at with it is we've got enough information. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. We've got enough information. We may not have every single detail. Everybody's got different bits of information. What are we going to do with it? And stories like yours, where you have everything closed down to you and you're backed in a corner. And what a profound moment to be told by your higher self, by the universe, to say, well, what do you want to do? You've been wanting to die and you're about to. And that just shows, and this was what, 20 years ago. I mean,
that was
that
in
just showed.
2001. Yeah, 2001,
Yeah.
2002.
So, I mean, that was instant manifestation.
Yeah.
That was instantaneous healing. And not once, but twice you listen to the guidance. And the second time, you're told no more treatment and defied the doctor's physical representation of
There was a
projection.
great thing. The first time round, I was having very heavy duty chemotherapy, and I was very ill with it. I'd been told by the doctors and nurses exactly what this chemotherapy would do to me, and I was producing all of those symptoms. And then I was having chemotherapy once a month. On the third round of chemotherapy, I was sitting waiting for the chemotherapy to arrive, and I suddenly thought, oh, there must be something I can do about this. So I asked, and as soon as I asked, it was this download of information. And I was given a color. I was told, okay, wash this color through your system to give the chemotherapy a cushion to ride on so that it doesn't penetrate too deeply into the cells. And this was an electric blue color. I still remember it now. And then I was told, you have to dismantle every single belief you have about this chemotherapy, everything you've been told, every fear you have, because it's the fear in your system. And then you welcome the chemotherapy in as if it were light, as if it were nectar, and you dismantle all of your resistance. So I had hours to wait for this chemotherapy. So I spent that time doing that. And of course, my symptoms cleared up very, very quickly. So I had no more symptoms from the chemotherapy. And that was another amazing demonstration just of how powerful we actually, or not we, but our thinking, how powerful our thinking is and how it creates our experience.
Do you think that you still utilize or carry that energy with you, even though it may even be like second nature, like riding a bicycle?
What do
Do
you
you,
mean?
well, I mean, do you feel like that energy, that transformational energy that you experienced and created more than once? Do you think that it's more of you naturally now? Like, is it in your field now, and
I
therefore,
think it's in all of our field. I think this stuff about 5G. I think this is what we do. You either, if you're really frightened of it, you're going to pull it in at a level of discordancy that can create damage to your cell tissue. If you instruct, our energy field is an extraordinary bio supercomputer, if you like. It's a multidimensional quantum field computer. If we instruct this field of extraordinary wisdom to integrate those energies in a way that optimizes our development, then I think that's what we'll do. But again, it's fear. is the key here. You know, if we decide we're going to go along with the fear impulses, you're going to get sucked down that river, and it's a nasty, nasty set of rapids you're going to go over. But if
Yeah.
you decide to sit in the driving seat, and the driving seat is the heart, and take responsibility for the fact that we are infinite and eternal beings that have decided to be here to make a difference in this little sector of the universe, then we're not, I'm not going to say it's the best idea to go live next to a 5G generator or whatever, but just don't be frightened of it, and recognize your system can overcome just about anything that life throws at us if we are in the
You
right
don't want to
frame.
antagonize.
No.
You antagonize. That's actually your fear, trying to be a badass. But at the same time, wherever you are, like I think about, I've been to a lot of big cities, lived in big cities. The last place I'd want to be is in Tokyo, downtown, or New York City. And as I think about those people, I think, wow, that's a dense place. Vegas. We went through Vegas. It's a very dense place. But they're there for a reason. I mean, they're in that spot on the grid for a reason with the
Yeah.
environment. And on one hand, it's to be exposed. On the other hand, it's to have the opportunity, here we go again, to illuminate,
Yeah.
which is really a natural thing. It's a natural thing to be able to be in joy and happiness, and that's, it's taken some getting used to, but these anchorings that people like you have done on an individual basis, like you said, the first one was very personal. There's been a huge impact on the collective grid. Everybody's benefiting from everybody's personal elevations,
Yeah.
activations, transmissions, and downloads. And
And that is
it's not going
so,
to be.
so truthful, that we are all extraordinary generators of energy. We don't realize how powerful each one of us is. I think that's a key aspect of this. We are still locked into the, meek and mild, I'm a lowly, worthless piece of shit on the bottom of somebody's shoes sort of thing. It's that sort of thing. Whereas we are, each of us, infinite and eternal beings, as radiant as the sun at
Yeah.
some level, and we are bringing that online now more and more. So every little shift we make, every few seconds of attention we pay to those deeper dimensions of
Right.
us benefit the whole collective field of humanity. Really, it does.
Well, and that's the reality of what I wrote this morning in terms of, is the mission, is the purpose, life, nothing, and the things that feed it, like, there was a galactic war history, or there was an earth war history, or there was all that stuff. Is it not just, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but could it not just be part of the narrative, part of our story, part of our playground? And by virtue of that, as we bring in these higher aspects and dimensions, the skills and abilities are there,
Yeah,
whether we're conscious or not, whether we're engaging it consciously and responsibly until we know what responsibility is, or that's even there to be had. We're being able to generate, manifest quicker. Everything is moving at a faster and faster pace in the quantum field, and that works both ways.
yeah,
So
yeah, it really
a
does.
hurricane could cover half the world if everybody got scared enough of it. But at the
And it's
same
easy.
time,
It's
but at the
really
same,
easy to get taken down, isn't it, by fear? If you pay a lot of
well,
attention to the conspiracy, if you're spending hours on
yeah,
the
of
internet.
course it is.
So
Yeah,
it's
but
just like, don't do that with your time and attention.
yeah, because okay, what do we all want to do? We all want to serve. We all want to serve the collective. What's the main thing we can do? What's the greatest thing we can do? It is uh, to be responsible for our focus, because in a quantum field, what you see, you create,
Yeah,
by the thoughts you carry forward. And I guess what I'm saying is that, on one hand, there could be a big hurricane, a bunch of propaganda, people freak out, it covers half the world, or as has been demonstrated the last few years, where there was a Category 5 about to hit Florida, everybody has a meditation, and and you watch it dissipate or go out into the Atlantic Ocean. There's many examples of that. So, you know, this is where I love what you said at the top of the show. It's an opportunity. Your your experiences, these two or three occurrences, you at the end of the day see them as an opportunity, and that's pretty much says it all. What's your choice? Like you were asked, uh, you know, do you want to live? If you want to, that's fine.
Yeah. And the other thing, the lovely thing I was told, the only reason to live is to live with joy. And if you can't do that, you might as well come home. And that was back into, and it was like, oh, and I hit the joy as a reason and a purpose for living had never occurred to me. You know, I always believed that if somebody had wrung me out like a sponge, what would come out of my cell tissue was pure misery, you know, because that was how I felt. It hadn't occurred to me that joy was a purpose for living. And it's taken me years to get to a state where I think I'm living more of that, much more of that now than
Yeah.
anything else, you know.
I like to listen to spoken narratives, you know, like speeches and poetry and stuff and dissertations. And I was listening to Charles Bukowski, the poet, the American
Uh-huh.
poet, last night. And, you know, his stuff is kind of dark, you know, because it's like my stuff was when I came out, and a lot of people's dark because that's where we began our transformation. And he has this one, and it's behind some beautiful music. And he says, if you're going to try, go all the way. And then he goes on for like 3 or 4 minutes, giving these incredible metaphoric, poetic, rhyming descriptions. But basically, he's saying, if you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even bother.
Yeah.
Which is to your point. Like, we're here, man. You know, we're here.
Give
The
it
minute you
everything.
say
Yeah.
you want to go and you end up going, you're going to be kicking yourself in the ass, not the universe saying,
Yeah.
I want to go back, you know?
Yeah. Indeed. It's amazing.
There's a long list of channelers and downloaders that I've seen on this show and other shows, other venues that have talked about how the souls are lining up to come here because of the opportunity for expansion. So you're a great example of that. You are a beautiful, brave, beloved brother. And it's always a pleasure having you on here. I hope to get across the pond in time. I will.
Well,
I will.
and
We got to be
likewise, I
careful.
will be coming to the States at some point this year. I just want to say on my website, which is davidmanningenergywork.com, there is a free teleconference where I talk about that first experience of cancer and talk about all of the ups and downs. And that's, you know, it's a free thing there. And
What's the name of the website? And somebody post it in the comments. Somebody will do it.
www.davidmanningenergywork.com.
Okay, davidmanningenergywork.com.
Yeah, and
Somebody,
that teleconference is cancer a mystical something or other. I can't remember. Mystical. It's
you know what I mean? I can't remember anything.
no, but it's
I got to have
it's
the
an
words.
interesting ride anyway. You know.
Yeah. Well, you're a beautiful brother, man. Very inspirational and very down to earth, and I love you.
Hey, likewise, Todd. It's always a joy to connect with you, and thank you for the amazing work you do because you just are non-stop, and I really take my hat off.
Sometimes I feel like a hamster on a wheel. But you know what? We're all are like a circus seal. Well, it used to be when I'd get upset, I'd be like, I feel like a fucking circus seal. You know, like back to work, back to. But no, it's all good, and it's and everyone's welcome. And thank you everybody for creating this vortex we call Soulogy, which is a small mirror of the universe, adding frequencies, never divorcing ourselves from any energy in this universe to an ever expanding vibration. And I love every one of you. And all 7.7 billion of us are star seeds, every single one of us. Peace out. Thank you, brother.
Lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, man.